And good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to another episode of Stop Motion Monsterpieces, where I'll be discussing some random movies featuring stop motion, not by the great Ray Harryhausen. And number 3 on the list is The Day Time Ended from 1980. Directed by John Bud Cardos, The Day Time Ended is a kitchen sink sci-fi film. And it tells the story of a family moving into a fancy new state-of-the-art home in the middle of the desert. Nope, that's not a bad idea. They soon discover that strange things are going on. The youngest child finds a glowing green pyramid-esque thing in the backyard, and she immediately begins asking for help, oddly. But let me tell you, this little girl has nerves of steel. There's a scene where a weird little dancing man shows up in her bedroom and she's just fine with it. Had that happened to me as a kid, I probably would have had a heart attack. But to be fair, I do really dislike dance numbers. But the weird events continue, all courtesy of a triple supernova, and this includes flying saucers, a little spaceship attack, and a large but not giant monster fight as the family attempts to make it through the night. Director John Cardos was also an actor and a stuntman. He appeared in several biker films and directed The Dark, Outlaw of Gore, and Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner. The Gate stars classic Western and Dallas actor Jim Davis as the head of the family, and he's kind of a stud. Most of the kids are his. It also features Dorothy Malone and Robert Mitchum's son Christopher. Now to the stop motion. This one features a pretty good amount, with the aforementioned dancing man and the monster battle. As to who did the stop motion, well, this is the snack bar, so I'll give you one guess. That's right, and for those that were right, that would be a team led by the great David Allen of Subspecies, The Primevals, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. Other members of the team include Randall Cook and Lyle Conway, who designed the stop motion creatures. And finally, I wanted to mention that this was a really environmentally conscious film. The production was quite green. But at only an hour and 19 minutes, this is an intriguing little sci-fi film with a quick pace. And number 2 on the list is Battle for the Lost Planet from 1986. Written and directed by Brett Piper, Battle for the Lost Planet, aka Galaxy Destroyer, is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi film. And it tells the story of a likable scoundrel who, while stealing a cassette tape, ends up having to steal a spaceship as well. After accidentally launching into space, he sees that the Earth is about to be invaded by Dr. Moreau's really failed experiments. But because of damage to the ship, our hero is stuck traveling through space for 5 years before he can return home. And when he does so, he finds that the planet was conquered and near destroyed by the alien invaders. He also finds that he's become somewhat famous because he is unknowingly in possession of the location of a powerful weapon that could save the planet. Oh yeah, and there's some monsters wandering about. Director Brett Piper is not only a director, having directed A Nymphoid Barbarian and Dinosaur Hell and Raiders of the Living Dead, but he was also a special effects artist with credits on They Bite and Bikini Girls on Dinosaur Planet. And I know that to anyone not familiar with Piper's work, it may sound like I'm just stringing a bunch of awesome words together, but no, this man has a resume. But the effects for Battle for the Lost Planet are credited to Cheap Tricks Unlimited. The stop motion, though, I most often see credited to Piper himself, which, if that's true, makes a lot of sense considering his resume. But if anyone knows for sure, do let me know, though I'm sure you probably already have. Either way, the stop motion in the film is quite good and the creature is quite charming. Definitely a nice addition to the film, though funnily when researching, I ran across a really stupid review complaining about the CGI monster. They really should require a license to use the internet. The film would receive a sequel in 1988 called Mutant War. Both Piper and star Matt Mittler would return. It also features some nice stop motion. Battle for the Lost Planet starts out a bit somber and kind of slow, but once our lead returns to Earth, it becomes a pretty fun post-apocalypse movie. Now, before we get to the final entry on the list, we have a special guest joining us live from Shackle Island.
Hey, R. Sterling, thanks so much for the invitation to join you here in the Atomic Snack Bar. I'm Dr. Gangrene, physician of fright, TV horror movie host here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. For those of you who don't know me, I've been hosting horror movies here in Nashville since 1999. So yeah, I've been at it for a minute. I appreciate the invitation to join you here. Now, when you first told me the theme that you wanted to cover in this joint venture here, that is horror movies that feature stop motion animation that's not Ray Harryhausen. Of course, we all know Harryhausen was top of the food chain, top of the mountain when it came to stop motion animation. Didn't get any better than that. But as far as other movies featuring animation, stop motion that's not Harryhausen, one of the first things that came to mind for me was the 1958 film Fiend Without a Face. It was directed by Arthur Crabtree, who would go on to direct Horrors of the Black Museum the following year. Now, what's really cool is this film is an adaptation of a weird tale story from 1930 by an author called Amelia Reynolds Long, and it was originally called The Thought Monster. I'm a big weird tales fan, so this just made me like this movie that much more. This is a low-budget picture made by Amalgamated Pictures, the production company run by Richard Gordon. The effects of the creatures, once they became visible, were done through stop-motion animation. The animation was done by German special effects artist named K.L. Ruppel. Now, the monsters at first are invisible, but once they become visible, they're super cool looking. They look like disembodied brains with a brain stem sticking out of the back that they use to crawl around the floor, to leap into the air, and to kill their victims by wrapping that spinal cord around their neck and crushing them. They also puncture the back of their neck and drain all the spinal fluid out for good measure. Yeah, just to make things that much better. Now, the final scene in this movie is gloriously gory. For 1958, you won't believe the gore in this thing. Now, what happens is they're trapped in the professor's laboratory, surrounded by brain creatures, and they're boarding up the windows. The creatures are breaking in. The soldiers are shooting the brains, and they bubble and spurt and sputter blood out of the wounds. It's pretty cool. Of course, it is in black and white. I can only imagine how impactful it would have been in shocking color. But even in black and white, for 1958, it's like, wow, pretty eye-popping. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think that scene where they're in the lab and the windows are boarded up and the monsters are trying to break in may be the first scene ever for a group of survivors trapped in one location surrounded by monsters trying to break in and kill them, like Night of the Living Dead. This may be the first time. Not sure about it, but it's the first I can recall. This film was released on a double feature with The Haunted Strangler, another film made by Amalgamated Pictures. Highly recommended. So, if you get a chance, check out Fiend Without a Face. It was released by Criterion on DVD, so I finally scored a copy a couple of years ago. It was on my want list for a long time. I never ran across a copy, finally found one, so was glad to add that to my collection. Check it out if you get a chance. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. Like I said, the gore at the end scene for 1958, pretty dang cool. The science in this movie doesn't make a lick of sense. You got atomic radiation, you got a scientist who's experimenting with trying to materialize his thoughts, and the radiation causes the creatures to appear and they suck the spinal fluid from their victims. And somehow that causes them to reproduce so that they can create more of themselves and are attacking the humans. And yeah, just roll with it. It's good. It's fun. All right, guys. So again, thank you so much for the invitation to join you here in the Atomic Snack Bar. If you get a chance, come by drgangrene.com. You can check out what I've got going on. I post the movie that I'm hosting here in Nashville every week on my website, so you can see some of my stuff there. And come by my YouTube channel here, Dr. Gangrene. You're more than welcome to join me there as well. Again, thank you for the invitation. I've had fun here. This is a great topic, a lot of fun, and a lot of madness. So until next time, stay mad, and I'll see you at the snack bar.
And make sure you check out Dr. Gangrene every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central Time on the NECAT Roku channel. And number one on the list is The Gate from 1987. Directed by Tibor Tkach, The Gate is a Canadian supernatural-based monster movie. And it tells the story of an awesome metalhead kid and his buddy who discover a gateway in the friend's backyard to a domain of evil beings. And not only did the two discover this eldritch gateway, but they accidentally open it, though they aren't aware at first. And this is all discovered thanks to an underground heavy metal record, which makes a lot of sense. I solved the bulk of my life's mysteries with 1980s heavy metal. Soon all kinds of strange things begin to occur at the friend's house, including the arrival of a zombie, a bunch of tiny monsters, and finally, a giant stop-motion demon. The Gate stars Louis Tripp as our young metalhead Terry. Though I guess if you want to get all technical, the lead is actually the friend played by young Stephen Dorff. But when I was a kid, I just thought Terry was awesome. And look at his bedroom. I'm pretty sure that's a cycle kite or balloon or something in the corner. That's good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, the effects in this one are awesome, using a mix of stop motion and forced perspective. And set effects were by William Randall Cook, who I mentioned many seconds ago in my entry on The Day Time Ended. But Cook is a prolific and really impressive special effects artist who worked on The Lord of the Rings, and designed, sculpted, and animated the Terror Dogs from Ghostbusters. But back to The Gate, Cook's use of forced perspective with the stop motion is just something else. Really interesting too, the little minion creatures are mostly actors in suits, once again shot in forced perspective. The film would receive a sequel in 1992, also directed by Tkach, and this time it actually did star Louis Tripp. I saw this one at the theater in my hometown, but oddly, it opened at the 99-cent theater. Also of note, there was a 3D remake in the works in 2009 by Alex Winter, who you may know from Bill and Ted and Freaked. And that's all the time we have for this weekend, but before we go, I wanted to ask Harry what he thinks about my style as a YouTube host.
I've never seen anything so incredibly beautiful in my whole life.
Yeah, I get that a lot, but I appreciate you saying so nonetheless. Please like, comment, subscribe, hype, watch the skies, and stay atomic.